All right, you guys, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show. And if this is the first time you're joining us, this is the number one place where we unpack the real stories, the real journeys, and the real solutions from people who've actually turned pressure into purpose and problems into profit. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga. And if you've ever looked at your life and maybe thought, you know what? Everything looks good on paper. Everything just seems to be A-okay, but you still feel something off. Then I think you are going to enjoy this episode because half of the time, sometimes when things are going well, it just feels like you're watching the game instead of playing it. So if you are thinking of maybe jumping onto the next chapter or wondering how to turn your ideas into something meaningful, my next guest is going to be somebody you would want to know. And before we get into it, just make sure you are subscribed to the Online Prosperity Show on whatever platform that you're going to be tuning or watching this from, because come to discover, we actually share the difference between watching life go by or actually living it. Now, today's guest is somebody that I've learned to respect and still yet to get to know, because some people see problems and panic, but this guy, he sees problems and actually starts calculating how much profit can I make from there. And I don't know if that's genius or it's a little bit concerning. I would like to welcome Mr. Oliver Tapuwa Mapunga. Oliver, welcome to the show.
My pleasure, Mr. Prosper. My pleasure. How are
Absolutely.
you?
I'm doing fantastic. All right. So for those that are meeting Oliver for the very first time, remember this name, Oliver Tapuwa Mapunga. Because not only is he just a founder of Rynaty AI, sports agent, diplomat, he's just somebody who decided comfort was too expensive for his future. And when you see people that come into your space and start doing things like that, you start wondering, wait a minute, what am I missing out here? But hey, I'll tell you something. Most people have all these opportunities, but they might not be actually seeing what is possible for them. Now, for those that are, wanting to know a little bit more about Oliver Tapuwa Mapunga, he actually went from a structured, predictable life to building across AI, smart cities, and global innovation. So when you hear about 2030 and everything else that comes along with it, it's a guy who's literally engineering most of the things you're going to be seeing in the future. So I think we're going to be talking flying cars or wearables. I don't know what it is that you've got going there, Mr. Oliver, but I know some people might just think, oh, it's easy because these are the times. But let me tell you something. Half of these things, we might have the opportunities and we walk past them, but some of them are actually disguised as problems that need to be solved. And if you don't know what to look for, you might not be the one person to actually solve those problems. So today we're going to be unpacking that journey, because somewhere in this conversation you might actually see yourself and you might actually notice that, hey, you too can be, do, and have the life that Mr. Oliver Tapuwa Mapunga is now experiencing. So when he first jumped on the show, I called him Elon Musk, because to me, he does represent that caliber of entrepreneurship and everything else that comes along with it. Now, Oliver, I could go on and talk about things I'm not even qualified to talk about. Tell us a little bit about your journey and what does a typical day for a techpreneur look like?
Everyone. But I would say that my day starts at 3 a.m. Usually I do my morning prayers. I'm a Christian, so I do my morning prayers. Then the following hour, I have to check my company, how are they performing. I also have to check some other business opportunities. I get time to read. I also get time to think. Then the following hour, which will be around 5 to 6. I'm doing my morning exercise. I make sure I go for a 2 kilometer run. I come back, I bath, then I go to the office. That is basically my initial plan for the morning. But when it's now during the day, I have people coming in who are coming to meet me. I also have different appointments with different people, being it honorables or other business partners across the world. So basically, that's how I run my day.
Absolutely. So obviously there's prayer, there's exercising. You're already fit before the world has even started deciding what they're gonna be having for breakfast. But this was always not the case for you. I mean, obviously, as you were growing up, you would have had aspirations or certain things that you wanted to do when you were growing up. What was it like growing up for you, Oliver?
Okay, so I would say that I grew up in a family business. My mother was running different kind of initiatives. So I became somebody who was taught on an early age how to venture into different things, how to look at life in a positive way. My father was a businessman. My mother is a businesswoman. So there were a lot of lessons that I learned from those guys. This is what has shaped me to become the pioneer in the tech industry, in the smart cities, and any other industry that I venture into.
Absolutely. Now, when kids are growing up, obviously we look at our parents as a source of reference that, oh, when I grow up, I want to be this, or I want to be a teacher, I want to be a doctor, a lawyer. What was that for you, Oliver?
To be honest, I would say maybe I was a prophet, but at first I thought I'm going to become, an electrical engineer or something. But as time goes on, I was excelling very well in sports to the extent that I thought, wow, I'm going to play maybe for Barcelona or Real Madrid. But I started to discover more opportunities beyond playing. That is when I actually launched this company called Next Gen Sports Group, where I am also a sports agent and representative. That was the birth of Next Gen Sports Group. Basically, that's my journey. At first, I thought I would be an electrical engineer. I thought maybe I would become a sports agent, and here we are.
Absolutely. You see, when I was growing up and Zim, you'd go to maybe your advanced level, and in your advanced level, you'd have maybe 3 or 4 subjects that you undertake, which will then determine what it is you're going to be as your profession. Did you have a specialty that you looked at? Because sports and electrical engineering, I mean, obviously they're things that you can do all at the same time, but being proficient in both, that would actually require a different skill set.
Okay, so what happened was I did my Form 4 in around 2018. By then, I had started quite a number of ventures. Some of them closed, some of them I was simply learning how to set up a real business in the real world. But along the way, I did my A level around 2019, 2020. I was doing commercial subjects.
Hmm.
Along the way as well, COVID came, and that's when I started to face, real world challenges. What should we do, and where should I fit in? I started to position myself into structures, into systems. That is when I introduced one of my ventures, which is called Rynaty e-waste management, where we are mainly focused on residential waste, industrial waste, as well as medical waste across Africa.
Mm.
That was it. From high school, I started a business. Right now, I'm undertaking programs with Harvard Business School online, particularly Masters of Business Administration. I've also taken courses that have to do with blockchain, AI, sports management, etc. So I'm always advancing and I'm always excelling in the things that I have to, work on.
Now, Mr. Oliver, I mean, obviously you have already stipulated your faith and the way that you run and start your day. But besides that, people your age and the time that you're talking about would have been out maybe trying to find where the next party is or where the girls are going to be hanging out that particular day and things like that. And there you are already trying to figure out how the world runs.
Yeah. So what actually happened was I'm a friend when it comes to reading books. My books are my friend. I don't really say I have physical friends. I have associates because of what life has taught me. Those ones that you do help are the ones that will bite you or are the ones that will go behind your back. I invested most of my time in reading books. I actually read 4 books per month, one per week, which is a social book, a business book, a spiritual book, and a tech-based book. So I make sure by the end of the year, I would at least read about 48 to 50 books. That is how I structure my life.
Wow. I mean, obviously that for a lot of people leaves a lot to be desired. But when you obviously were starting in all of these ventures and things like that, most of the businesses that you were starting, this is not something like you're selling shoes or you're selling clothes or something that is of a common venture that if somebody says I'm going to start a business, they are obviously looking for buying and selling something with stock in it. But you went for things like e-waste. You went for things that are obviously not necessarily the normal. How do you know the difference between a real opportunity or just yet another shiny object?
Okay, so what actually happens is I assess, I research a lot, I read, I ask questions. If there is something that I want to venture into, I make sure I invest and I have much knowledge on what I need to tackle, what I need to work on, where are the strengths of this business and where are the weaknesses. That is what I simply do. And as for the waste management, that was a period when, here in Zimbabwe, you just walk around in the streets, you are seeing litter there, you are seeing papers almost everywhere. Then I realized this could be actually a business. So I hired my first staff were actually my friends and my sister. So I hired them, and I could simply dispense those business cards. They were not even perfect to say. They were just papers, not professional business cards. They were just papers. That is when I also learned the concept of start by starting. You don't have to wait for a perfect moment to start. You just have to start. On our first initial trial, we got about 200 clients around, Belvedere here in Harare. Then we realized this could be very much profitable. Why don't you scale it to another level? Then we started to introduce industrial waste management, medical waste management. So right now we have been partnering and targeting, hospitals and different medical facilities.
And obviously keeping Harari clean in such a way that it's lucrative on your part, but also the city benefits from the efforts that you're putting out there. Now, Oliver, you know,
Yes.
knowing what I know about the sort of upbringing that you say you had, you grew up around business. Obviously, what that entails is a soft way of life, and maybe you could have gotten some sort of inheritance from your parents and things like that. Why would you extend yourself? You could just go on, continue whatever ventures that your parents were doing.
Okay, so to be more precise on that, I grew up with a certain mantra. You have to start your own things. You have to
Mm.
live your life the way you want. I discovered this early, and it has been something that has been on the center of my heart, that I have to introduce something of my own. I don't have to rely on anyone, but I just have to take lessons from them. You don't have to give a man fish, but you have to teach them how to fish. Yes.
Yeah,
So,
I
so I
like that.
simply walked away. Yes.
I like that because so many kids that are brought up in families and with parents that have means usually do not end up, you know, exerting themselves or even applying themselves in order for them to actually get started on their journey. Now, did that actually create any pressure on your part, or did it feel heavy or helpful that you gave yourself this mandate?
Okay. So what I would say is that I would really appreciate my mother for what she did. She quickly taught me when I was young that you have to live your life the way you want. You have to program it the way you want. So from that tender age, it really taught me that you don't have to rely on someone's assets or simply to rely on inheritance. You just have to build your life from scratch up to the sky. You understand? The reason why most businesses do fail these days is most people are failing to teach their children or their kids the basics or the initial steps on how to run organizations, how to run these institutions. So you simply say maybe when your parent dies, you just go and inherit things that you don't really have mindset on or that you don't really understand. So if your parent at least teaches you how to set up a business when you're young, by the time you grow up, you understand, you have your own life. So this is what I did, and I'm proud of it.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for obviously clarifying that. But you did mention you started, a few ventures here and there. At what moment did you then stop analyzing opportunities and actually started building something that, you thought this was going to be a concrete venture?
Okay, so it was in 2022 when I decided to register this waste management company to become an official operating company because we're just operating as a small to medium enterprise, as individuals moving around collecting waste. But I realized, let me formalize this thing. Because around 2018, I had different number of businesses that I introduced. I had an e-commerce startup that operated for about 6 months, but there was a cunning businessman. I will not mention the name. He offered to buy the startup. I refused, and there was a war. So I decided to just shut the doors but I was in high school those days. I also had this startup, a payment platform, P2P, but the Central Reserve then regulated crypto and other things. So we also decided to shelve some of these technologies. We are looking forward to introduce them very soon, but I had a number of initiatives that I've introduced.
Absolutely. So obviously, without mentioning the big business person, but what did it feel to go up against somebody like that, and what did that also teach you about business?
To be honest, number one, it taught me how to be cunning and how to be shrewd in business. Business doesn't really like people who are soft. It also needs you to be confident. It needs you to be bold. When you're exchanging some of these ideas on the table or when you're invited in these programs, you also have to stand your ground so that they can know this person means business, this person means this. Because if you do not express yourself, most people will simply take advantage of you. There's also another incident that happened. There was a guy I was doing lithium, lithium mining.
Yes.
So I facilitated the transaction. Out of respect and out of maybe trust, I simply said, go and collect our payment. I ended up losing my payment. It was just a markup fee, but I lost it all. I lost about 50,000 USD on that transaction. It also taught me that every business that you venture into, you have to sign contracts, you have to sign agreements. You don't just talk by mouth and say, you know what, let's do this and this and this. It's documented. Everything should be documented.
Wow. And also from getting to know you, you talk a lot about being a man of value, not just mere success. What does that look like from day to day?
Okay, so creating value is something that I live by each and every day. I'm not motivated by, but I'm motivated by creating value and impact. Let me say or give you an example. I would be more happy if I move around in a community that doesn't have goals and I donate, let's say, my $100,000, and I see each and every area having bowls drilled or having, access to water, rather than driving a $500,000 car without impact. That's me. If I go into a boardroom, I ask myself, which value am I creating? Am I just a number that is being added on the members list, or I am creating value? What am I bringing to the table? This is what I focus on mostly, creating value.
They call that empire thinking, because you're thinking in terms of how can I bring everybody on the table. Whereas, the people that we see being celebrated are just individualistic. As long as their car can navigate over the potholes, they don't care. They don't feel them as they go past them, and the SUV is, untouched because it doesn't dip into the potholes. So there's part of what I saw that you actually separate who you are from the title that you have. I tried to tease you and said, am I talking to Elon Musk? And you said, no, call me Oliver Tapuwa Mapunga. Now, how has that actually helped you stay grounded in a world that is very obsessed with materialism and status?
It has opened more doors for me, to be honest. You can't carry your title wherever you go. When you move around, obviously there's another big business person who may be better than you in the way you execute, in the way you plan, or in the way you think. So what I do is I leave my CEO title, I leave the founder title in my office. Then I have to visit another business person. We discuss ideas. I discuss as a person who is learning, who is being mentored. I get ideas. I go to the world. I implement. That's what I do.
Absolutely. But half of the time, usually when people are in a situation like you, they get the accolades, they get the connections, and they just look after themselves. The rest of the world, is is gonna have to fend for themselves. Or if they want access to you, they have to buy from you. Now, how are you connecting with, all of the things that you're doing and the situation on the ground, especially when it comes to artificial intelligence? And from what I hear, not everybody has access to those kind of tools.
Okay, so what I'm spearheading as for now is we have partnerships that we have been building with the different institutions across the world. Some of them are big tech companies. So we'd like to introduce AI schools across Africa, different regions. We are also looking forward on AI short courses and programs so that at least an individual will understand what is AI. Because you can't talk of high-tech innovation without equipping people with the knowledge. So we are also looking forward towards that. And I would love to thank the government of Zimbabwe for what they have done, introducing the national AI strategy. And I think one of the major areas they are going to focus on very soon is we shall see AI being mandatory. People moving around houses, teaching you AI, teaching you how best to implement and how best to use these comprehensive solutions and comprehensive tools.
Absolutely. This is like
So we are,
really bringing
yeah.
people from the grassroots level in order to actually get started and connect with the rest of the
Yes.
world. Now, is this the same AI for all initiative? Because this sounds very powerful.
Okay, so this is, I'm pretty sure this is going to start on a basic level, just being taught how to use these, AI tools, Gemini, GPT, how to code, how to integrate some of these, basic things. This is the way we are going to start. But as for our organization, we've already set up a charity initiative or a non-profit making initiative where we are simply going to disperse about 250,000 USD to teach, about 1,000 kids on how to integrate AI on their daily lives, whether it's AI for finance, AI for agriculture, AI for healthcare, different areas. That is what we are focused on our next step.
Absolutely. You see, what I like about this is if you allow the actual people that will be using the product to create solutions and systems for it, it's much more faster and efficient because they know what problems they're facing than trying to look at it from the outsider's point of view based on the information and knowledge that you have from the side. Now, looking at what you are creating, what is the future look like when Africa now becomes a creator instead of just consuming innovation?
Africa is going to be a hub of innovation, I would say. AI is going to, contribute about $15.7 trillion in the global economy by 2030. So we don't just have to be, observers of AI. We also have to be creators of value, innovation, ideas, concepts, frameworks. We have to create a conducive environment for that. If you look at, the internet revolution, Okay, let me take you back to the telecommunications revolution, right? There were guys in Africa who introduced, MTNs, Orange, Dr. Strive Masiwa introducing Econet.
Econet.
There were guys in Africa who were competing with, we were very much reluctant in the internet revolution. Nothing came out of Africa within the internet revolution. Then there comes AI, and we just sit down. No, we have to take our chunk in that particular sector. We have to participate in this global innovation.
Absolutely. I quite like that. But also, maybe I could try and answer that question for you because the telephone is an individual product because it's got the end user. By you having the telephone on there, you literally can influence the growth of said industry. Okay. And it works on a network effect. So if your friend has a phone, then that means your phone is useful because then you can call them. Now, the internet came in from a business and infrastructure type setup where it was creating solutions where people needed to purchase. You couldn't necessarily go and create unless you were creating a shop or some sort of setup like that. But it didn't have the network effect where everybody had access to the internet. But I think AI now has taken it back again to the individual so that they can actually utilize it for the solutions that they need and actually connect with other people and make use of the technology in that way. So I can't wait to see what you guys are going to be creating. But if you really look at it,
Yes.
So many people, when you say, okay, let's get started in this, all this, the technology is there, people would say, I don't have capital. And yet they're sending memes and watching football on expensive phones. What do you say about that?
Okay. I would say entertainment is key. You need entertainment in one way or the other, but you don't have to spend the whole day on entertainment. At some point, I had these other guys. One of them was holding a $2,500 phone, and he was looking for capital, asking for a loan. And I said, why don't you just go and sell your phone, raise capital, start a business? Because in as much as I know, I started my business with with $5. Those business cards were my capital. Those business cards were my capital. I only printed those business cards for $5. And from $5, it's something else that we're talking about today. So I'm surprised with people who are holding, expensive gadgets. They are holding, these luxurious sort of things that they can't really afford. And after that, the phone is taking man each and every day. It needs to be upgraded. It needs, all sorts of things. You are driving a car that you can't really afford. It needs service. Why don't you just sell that car, have a modest, life, just build a business from scratch, grow, and you can buy luxury later on.
Don't you think it is a mindset that obviously needs to be addressed from the grassroots level because people just think I have to have these certain trappings in order for me to show my success. Otherwise, whatever it is that I've done will amount to nothing.
Yes, I think most people right now they are living for the gram. They are living for Instagram. They are living for TikTok. They are living for. That's why you see, even if you go through my profiles, you don't see anything. I've decided to keep my life private, and it will remain that way. Probably, maybe if you hear one or two things, but yeah, that's me. And I don't
Now that
blame those that plan their world on, but that is me. I'm not them.
That explains a lot because when we were researching this, I was like, where do we find information about, Mr. Mapunga? But now that explains a lot. But what I also found while we were researching you was you were recognized among the 40 under 40, and you were actually age 22 when that happened. First of all, congratulations. But my question to you there is,
Thank
was
you.
that validation on your part, or did that actually raise a lot of pressure and expectation on, from those around you?
Okay, so what it played a pivotal role in my life. Of course, there was pressure from people around me to deliver excellence, to continuously deliver excellence each and every day. But it opened a lot of opportunities because when you are listed on such a platform by the Institute of Corporate Directors in Zimbabwe, you tend to, draw attention from all walks of life, different businesses, different organizations, different institutions. They are willing to work with you because they see the good work you are doing in your own nation. And from that year, 2024, I've received quite a number of investors willing to facilitate their trades into Zimbabwe through my organization, through my company. They may say, okay, we want to invest in clean energy. We want you to be our representative. Come on board. We are working together. We are collaborating. These are some of the opportunities I have faced. I've also met, different business people. I've also interacted with billionaires on different occasions after this listing. So I would really want to thank the Institute of Corporate Directors here in Zimbabwe for such an honor.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations. I think that would have also been one of the things that led us to you, because we're always looking for people that are out there doing amazing things and creating unique solutions and seeing the world in a whole different light. Because just listening to you, I'm starting to realize something here, Oliver Mapunga. It's not just about AI or business. There's a mindset there, it's about how you actually see the world, because some people just wake up and all they're seeing is pressure. We've got a statement in Zimbabwe, press. But what they're actually, making a self, fulfilled prophecy of how things are actually pressing them, whereas you're seeing potential in all of these things, and you saw potential in rubbish that was on the street. So you can only imagine when the real things start coming to you, and you've never felt like you're obviously incapable of it. You've always given it a shot, and you've gone on and acted on it. So if some people are watching and maybe they're interested in some of the initiatives that you're doing, where can they find you? Like you said, you're not very prevalent on the social media places. Do you have places where you can direct people to so they can start looking at your work?
Those that want to connect with me know how to do it. They know the basics and how to reach out to me. But I'm mostly active on LinkedIn. I'm also active on Facebook. Those are my primary social media accounts. But if you want to visit our office, you come at 55 Eddington Park in Harare. You can also visit our office in Iben, Mauritius, 7221 Iben Esplanade, Mauritius. They're in Cyber City.
Absolutely. I'll definitely make sure that all those links are in the show notes so that people can, find their way to you. Now, representation matters. Okay. There could be a very young Oliver out there who's maybe watching this video and is looking for inspiration and just thinking to themselves, wow, I wish I could be like Oliver Tapuwa Mapunga. What would you say to that young fellow or young girl?
Never stop trying. Keep going. No matter how life or no matter how difficult life is, keep going, keep trying. One day the door will open. One day the door will open. I myself have started quite a number of ventures, like I said. Most of them have closed due to different reasons, due to business war. There's also a bit of some politicking from the financial sector. We are looking at investors from the West. They may say, your color, you can't afford to have our investment. So yeah, these are some of the things you'll be facing. So you have to keep trying and keep going. You will reach it.
Absolutely. And never, ever, ever give up, which obviously is, one of the things that anybody should actually live by. Now, obviously, you've shown us where you have come from. You've told us what it is that you're doing. What's next, Oliver? I don't think you're settled. You definitely have something up your sleeve that you're working on. And since you brought us into your world, what should we be celebrating with you that you're doing at the moment?
Okay, so there is a startup that I'm working on. You shall hear about it very soon. It's called Next Era. So it's pioneering clean energy and advanced infrastructure for wireless energy technology. So we have partnered in Australian startup called Aquila Earth. Maybe you are quite aware of it. It's developing a global wireless electricity technology network.
Okay.
So
Yep.
yes, we are looking forward to deploy that technology on a large scale. We are looking forward to power drones wirelessly. We are also looking forward to power electric vehicles wirelessly. Because in the electric vehicle sector, there's what we call range anxiety, where
Mm.
if you are traveling maybe for a 200-kilometer journey, you have to wait maybe for 20 minutes for your EV to charge. But with wireless electric vehicle charging infrastructure, they can be embedded along the highways or along the highway corridors. So you can charge your EV as you go. There's no need for you to wait on a station to fill up you understand. So this is some of the technologies we are working on. We are also looking forward to deploy the next grid technology, which is wireless electricity to homes, powering those homes that are in areas, of difficult terrain. We have about 600 million people that do lack access to electricity, and the very same people are tied to that because of power lines are extremely expensive. You shall see maybe it costs about a million or two to construct maybe a 1 kilometer. So we are also trying by all means to introduce some of these initiatives. It came up actually in 2020 when I witnessed a serious challenge here in Harare. Our transformer was stolen. We had to wait for about 1 year without it being replaced. So I realized there is an opportunity. What can we do around this uh, kind of challenge, this kind of problem? I then realized there's what we call wireless energy. So I started to research, develop concepts, looking for different programs to join, partners, funders, banks, venture capital firms, you know. So right now we are good to go. We have prototypes, we have tested, and yeah, we'd love to scale. So as for now, we want to test at least about 20 areas here in Zimbabwe. This coming week, my partner is arriving in Zimbabwe.
Absolutely. This looks and sounds very interesting. I mean, obviously, technology is moving in leaps and bounds, but if you're going to be leaping over the infrastructure that has already been set up, especially in the lines of electricity, that will make it cheaper, better, and faster. Because I think the biggest deterrent that has been stopping the electrification of certain places in the world has been the cost of infrastructure. Now, if you're going to bypass that, then I think your title still has to remain the Elon Musk of Zimbabwe right now. I think by now people would understand why I'm saying this.
Wow, my pleasure.
Absolutely. Now, Mr. Oliver Tapuwa Mapunga, thank you so much for your time today. I mean, your life story and your experience and the things that you're working on are so of so much interest. And don't get me wrong, your name has been thrown in so many places, and I think that's the reason why we reached out.
My pleasure. Thank you so much as well for taking your time to interview me on this platform. Lifelong Digital.
Not a problem. Not a problem. Wow. What a
And the
conversation.
crew in the team as well.
Absolutely. What a conversation. I mean, if there's one thing that you can take away from today's conversation with Oliver Tapuwa Mapunga, I think it's this: opportunities don't disappear. They actually go to people who act on them. And only if you can see them. It could be the can of Coke that you're kicking down the road that could literally become $1 million enterprise before you actually decided to pick it up and put it in its rightful bin. And Oliver didn't wait for the perfect thing to come. He actually used garbage to reinvent himself, and he didn't wait for permission. He just got tired of sitting still and watching the world do what it was doing, and he thought he could exert his impact and influence in it. And now he's talking wireless electricity and technologies that not a lot of people have even heard about. And maybe that's the shift that, if you're watching and listening to this right now, you need to start acting upon. So if this episode made you think a little bit different, or even just think for a second, because I know a lot of people have retired their thinking capabilities, I encourage you to share this episode with somebody who's probably been sitting on their potential, or somebody who thinks they might not be able to change or shape the world, because this might actually be the push that they needed. And also, if this is your first time on the Online Prosperity Show, be sure you are tuned in, because we're going to be diving into ideas that will actually help you live a happier and more fulfilled existence. So I can't wait to see what you'll do with this information. Go check out Oliver Tapuwa Mapunga's information in the show notes there, and actually connect, because if you're seeing opportunities but you're still hesitating, I think this is your signal. Stop waiting, take that move, and you never know, that one idea you've been sitting on could literally become the thing that actually changes not only your world but the world. I don't know what you do with this information today. Bye for now.